never contacted, never attended any meetings about it.
Actually, I had a conversation with her earlier in the spring about it, so I'm happy to talk with her directly.
And did you use town volunteers for that?
I had a discussion with her about it earlier in the spring.
Right, but I wasn't part of that, so I'm just
happy to
asking.
talk with her about it directly.
You can talk to me, it's my town.
I don't have anything else to say other than that.
Okay, and I do have a second question. I'm speaking to a woman from the DEC, and she informed me something I had no idea about, that Hurley has been upgraded or downgraded, I guess, to a Superfund site at our closed landfill. And I hadn't seen anything about that.
I have had no correspondence to that fact. Absolutely
I can
not.
check with her. And I just was wondering, what has the progress been on those?
I did a blast this afternoon with the annual report of the closed landfill. That's online. It's 18 pages. There really wasn't anything remarkable. You can take a look at that.
So have we hired the?
Oh yeah, a lot of work has been done.
That's what I mean. What is the work that has been done?
You want me to take it?
Sure.
The leachate system is in the process right now. We're almost done rebuilding it, fixing it, finding out the old things that were buried and weren't taken care of, fixing those.
They analyzed the tanks
Yes.
and the piping systems.
Yep.
They rebuilt the berm that
The berm was yanked out.
was missing. And the work is almost completed. There's electrical work yet to be done. If I received correspondence about it being a Superfund site, I absolutely would publish it. So when I get something in writing, I will make that public.
I'll tell you right now, I don't know who you heard that from.
I heard it from the woman who works at TEC.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you need to look at these reports, and you're gonna find that that's not true.
Thank you.
We are looking for volunteers for recreation, so if anyone wants to participate in that, we're happy to have help. So, anyone else? Public comment period? You can speak.
Can we speak for both my CAC and in benefit of Greg on Ohio Mountain?
Sure, yeah, I was just looking back at my notes and I thank you.
Okay. I'm Joan Passione, West Hurley, CAC Chair. I had told the board that I was going to...
Hey, guys.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I just have something quick to say when she's done.
Well, wait till she's done and you can.
Okay.
I called the New York State Rural Water Association regarding any studies that they could do for us on Ohio Mountain because of the drought situation up there. They can't because it's private. Their suggestion to us was looking at the water studies we had done before, that we now get some engineering studies that could give us some ideas as to what could be done up there. Okay, how we could possibly do any kind of providing some water, not providing some water, giving the homeowners some guidelines. And Greg came to our last CAC meeting and he made some fantastic suggestions that we could possibly, use. Do you want to talk about the
Sure.
flooding wells?
Yeah, so one of the things that after Joan told me what Rural Water had told her was that there seemed to be an issue with regards to collecting data from private wells. So the neighborhood took it upon itself to spread the word, and we have more than 20 homes that are willing to allow access to their wells in order to do basically groundwater level measurements, and to do that over time, which is really the crux of what we really need so that we can figure out how the groundwater is flowing, what the recharge rates are, and what the consumption patterns are. And it's only with that data that we can really pinpoint a solution to the problem, which is, now that I keep talking to more and more people, it's really encompassing the entire mountain. So it's a lot of homes.
And the makeup of the soil up there, as we know, it's all rock. So the issue is, how do we do it through zoning? Do we do it through changing in building codes? There's probably a lot of things we don't know about that people who have dealt with this before could assist us with these studies. So since it's not something that the state will take up and give us funding for it, I don't know if there's grant money for something like that, or if the town would look into engineering firms that could help us with this. So that's where we are at this point, and I would like to see the town do something for, water is such an issue. Yeah, go ahead.
I talked to Bill McKenna about it,
Okay.
because they're the opposite side of the hill.
Well, we did that when we changed the zoning 20 years ago.
I would suggest that since you're pretty much represent us kind of in this, that you get in touch with me
With Bill,
and we work,
yeah.
because honestly, if we're gonna work on our side, the other side's probably got problems too.
Agreed.
He said, I asked him, he said he's heard no issues on their side. I don't know, I don't know if they just haven't brought it up or not, but to me, the thing goes like this.
No, yeah.
So I would assume,
Yeah.
Well, we had a task force, I said probably 20 years ago, but then there were issues of the two towns paying for their share, and they didn't allow it at that time, and I don't remember the total logistics, okay? But then Woodstock dropped out, they did their thing, and we did ours. So we went to the zoning issues, and we changed our zoning up there, okay? I think it was 2 acres in some of the areas, we went to 4.
okay.
But I will call him,
Yeah,
and maybe we can get something started and
maybe
see.
together, because if you find out they're having trouble and they need help, that means both of our towns need help. And maybe we could work something together. Because if you're doing tests there, you probably want to make tests on the other side too. Because if there's fissures in the rocks and the water's running certain ways, you're going to have a better idea of what's happening with the water itself.
Yeah, and I can tell you from my own personal experience that we lose about 7 feet of groundwater per year. Okay? And that's for measurements over the last 3 years. So,
Yeah, and I mean,
while, still 200 feet to go, there's an end point.
Who's doing those studies for you? How do you know that it's the average?
Yeah, so I purchased a device that basically lets me go down to the bottom to see where it is. It's got a little electric sensor on the bottom of it, and it just tells you when you hit water.
Okay.
I did go up to Hickory Lane to see what's going on there, because I had spoken to Mike Schultz about it, and it looks like you're doing a great job. I mean, he's getting those sewers in and those catch basins in, but the issue is it's not helping these guys at all. It's going right into the reservoir. So, that's the issue too. Can we capture any of that excess water that, could possibly be put into wetlands that could, if there were any up there, that could possibly recharge? So those are the things that I think engineering studies would be, after we get through this, possibly, engineering studies would be something we could look at.
That's exactly right. It's really the flow that
Yeah.
we want to know, so that if we were to increase the recharge rate, we would know where to pool water.
All right, that's it.
Okay, next. Yes?
I'd just like to say that we put, I'm Andrew Doyle, I'm the Assistant Chief of the Fire Department here. We put emergency response personnel only parking signs up in the front of the building. There's quite a few vehicles that are parked. I'd like to ask them to be moved. It's crucial for us that we can get guys in here and girls in here if we do have an emergency call. And that was one of the stipulations of being able to use this.
Okay, thank you. I
That's okay.
realize it because of the weather, so thank you.
Yep.
Reminding us.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Everyone parked by the building can go move your vehicles, please.
go this way. It's less, just walking in the rain.
No problem.
Did you get your bus?
No, I waited 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is like a 30 secretary for the, so that's the town bid.
So it's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is, we're looking at. Every house that's up there has reservoirs of water, just because the gas limit is so low. In 60s.
You still have property up there that grandfathered in, yeah, the grandfathered in on 1 acre, so I mean, and we do have, I'm a down in the garage. We have a whole lot more people living here full time now.
That's the other issue, yeah.
I've been pulling all the data to know
Yeah.
that USGS actually has been tracking 2 wells in the area, and you can see exactly 3 months after the pandemic started,
Yeah.
the groundwater started to go down. And it went way down, like 40%. And it's only been, it's not even fully recovered, back to the beginning of the last year.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, you get more people using water.
All right, anyone else for public comment?
Hi, I'm Sherry Scully. I am the chairman of the Board of Commissioners for the West Hurley Fire District, and I had spoken last month and given a letter in reference to the 2% money that we have not received from the town of Hurley yet as of today, and we have been inquiring about it and asking questions, and really nothing was being done. So I wrote a letter and asked if I could have some very detailed information and an idea of when we're going to be getting this money. We're getting very close to budget time. We do need the money for that, and it's just money that we should have had. And I understand there was errors within the town of Hurley, but I think that maybe those errors could have been fixed or looked at that point. We'd like to find out what's going on. I mean, I would hate to have to get our lawyer involved in this, but at this point, it seems to be that that's where it's going to go to, because we're into 7 months now of not having, you know, this 2% money that we were entitled to because of an error within the town of Hurley.
So I'm just going to recap for those who don't know. My understanding is that there was a difference between the preliminary budget and the final budget last year for the West Hurley Fire Department, and that the the budget that was submitted was actually $11,000 less than what you all passed, right?
It's $12,000, 2%.
Okay.
It's
So
$12,000.
I'm $12,000, sorry. So my understanding is that paperwork was submitted to the town last year in November, I believe, and it didn't make it to the county. So the tax levy that was put into place by the county was incorrect because that paperwork didn't make it. The town did allocate $11,000 from American Rescue Plan money, but beyond that, we can't. Maybe David can speak to this, because we did have a conversation and we talked about whether it's permissible under the law for the town to make up the difference, so to speak.
Yeah, I have to continue researching it. I wasn't available to finish it today. But the town is, the town has constraints on what it can spend money on. as a matter of law. For one thing, the town can't make gifts. For another thing, the town is constrained by its budget. Town can only spend money on what it's budgeted. So I'm gonna look into those, but it's not clear to me that the town is constrained by state law as to what it can do. And it's not clear that this is something the town can do.
Because you all are a separate taxable district, really what needed to happen is the proper tax levy needed to be put into place last year.
It was filed in the town of Hurley, correct?
The
They had the budget from
it wasn't, well, it was preliminary budget that got filed, is what
From
my
20,
understanding is.
yeah,
But
right, from
I was-
20, from the previous year. It was the wrong year that was put in.
That I can't speak to, I was not involved in that process.
Hey, John.
All I know is what I was told.
My letter fully states all of that. I gotta tell you, we keep getting this stuff, I'm not asking for a gift, I'm not asking for something that we're not entitled to. We are entitled to the 2% money. We've been getting the runaround. It was put in November. If there was an error made, you saw the letter that we got sent, the town of Hurley stating we made an error. So we looked into this, and we realized we let it go, and now we are almost at the end of July, or middle of July, and we're still getting this, we have constraints, we can't do gifts, we can't do that. We're not asking for that. We are asking for the 2% money that we are
I
entitled
understand, I
to.
just need to make sure that how I do it is legal.
Okay, so
Because it's not legal for me to just write you guys a check.
When do you think, since it's been 7-8 months, that we will be able to have an idea of what is going to happen clearly with a date as to when we're going to receive this money?
So I understand that from your perspective, it's been 7 or 8 months. I only found out about this literally in the last 2. So that's, that's, in all fairness, that's.
Okay, I have to say that too. That's you, but some of the board members here were aware of this. This has been something that's been talked about on and off with our treasurer, Wendy Trojak. Please let me finish. So this has been talked about, it's been discussed, it's known that there has been a problem. So whether you knew about it in the last couple months or not, I gave detailed information a month ago. Nobody's reached out to me. I haven't heard anything. I gave it a month. I said, in a month, I would like to have some concrete information as to what's going to happen here. I think we've been more than fair about this. And I don't know, and I keep getting, I didn't know about it 2 months ago, for 2 months, I didn't know about this, and certain board members weren't on, certain were. It's been an issue that's been brought up repeatedly. So that's what I have to say about it. So I would like to know what is going to be done, step by step, in detail, so we can figure out and get to an end point. We are coming to the budget time of year here in August and September, and we have to have this figured out before
So the
then.
$11,000 of ARPA money was no help to you in bridging that gap. I understand. So I will get back to you in the next 2 weeks. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I would just like to add, Melinda, that last month at the workshop meeting, you indicated that you knew about this in April. Now you're saying 2 months. April, May, June, July. Okay, that's 4 months.
I misstated, my apologies.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted the record set straight.
Okay, I'm sorry I made a mistake.
Because I don't want anybody to think that, listen, I'm coming down a little bit now at this point because it's been so long. It's not like it's been a month, it hasn't been a couple months. We've been asking and not getting put it this way, when you ask, we haven't gotten any answers whatsoever. So that's why I wrote the letter, because it's like we have heard nothing.
I understand.
So-
You understand, I've been talking with lawyers. It's just not been clear to me what I can do.
Okay,
Okay?
well then maybe
So-
we should have your lawyer speak to our lawyer.
Okay.
We can do that, maybe we can set that up and get it figured out sooner rather than later. Because, like I said, we're getting into the budget season, there's things that we need to do. The $11,000, that's got nothing to do with the 2% money. The 11,000 was great, there you go, but you can't really say, well, you know what, we owe you 12,000, but we gave you 11,000. No, we should have had 21,000
I
there.
understand.
I don't like that. That kind of makes me think that it's a little bit, well, we gave you 11,000, and that didn't help you at all, so, no, that's not the point. The point is, we were supposed to be given $23,000, 11,000 and 12,000.
The incorrect tax levy went into place at the county level, I understand.
Yep, exactly, and that's not our problem, so somebody's got to figure it out.
I understand. I think part of the problem was the town clerk was, you know, there was a situation at the town hall.
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely, that's
So,
what I'm saying, that's, so we need to
I
really
get it.
get this rectified sooner rather than later.
I get it.
Thank you.
I just have, well, I guess two things now. John Perry, 126 Sunset Terrace. I'll just want to piggyback a little bit here. The levy didn't change. You didn't change your taxes. It was the same, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the levy was changed by 2%.
It did go up 2%?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because if I remember correctly, what you submitted was exactly what was
I didn't
previous year.
submit,
No, Alan
but
did.
as a member of the public, I was at the meetings,
Yeah.
and the budget was revised with a 2% increase for the final submission to the town.
Yeah.
That was what we've been told was delivered to town hall. I did not see the final of what was submitted.
Alice told me she did.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember it being the same as the previous year, and then there must have been a revision, is what you're saying? And then okay, all right, so I don't know, I gotta be honest with you, I don't know if I ever saw that revision. But to answer maybe some of the questions, maybe I can help. When that happens, either you have to go out and re-tax the levy, you have to do a second tax to the people, or you have the ability to add that tax back to the next following budget year.
That was added to our budget when we turned it in.
For the initial one?
No, because we got to approve our budget in October, according to state law.
The budget we turned into the town had the 2%.
And
The first one, that was
no,
signed
no,
off
no, not,
by
the
your.
final budget, the final thing had it in it.
Actually, I remember, like, what was it, like 159? I could have swore it was the same exact what it was in
No,
2020.
we increased it.
Oh, we
Okay.
increased it by 2%.
Okay. I'm glad to sit and help any
No,
which way I can.
Thank you.
The second thing is I remember there being a meeting with Senator Hinchy and Executive Ryan about the West Hurley water. I just haven't heard any updates on that. Maybe you can help.
Right, so, there was a newspaper article about it. There was a public hearing at the Woodstock Elementary School. Members of every municipality and residents from each district were represented there. What came out of it was a set of action steps, mainly going back to the Public Service Commission, honestly. Assemblyman Cahill's office, going back to the Public Service Commission because some of the items that they had considered the company in compliance with, it turns out that a lot of like the communication piece that the company was supposed to do with the residents was not happening, even though the company said that it was and submitted documents to the PSC. So there were just a number of things that had to be cleared up. So they're going back to the Public Service Commission. The day after that hearing, the company filed for a 20.4% rate increase.
That's why I'm bringing it up. That's
Yes.
what I heard.
So this morning, I signed on to a letter that's being sent about that case to the PSC with the other supervisors, and hopefully some action will be taken. You might be interested in this. Josh Vogt sent me newspaper articles from the 1970s where residents then were asking for the town to take the system. That was going back to 1978 or 79. So that's the story with that.
Can I ask you something also, Melinda?
Yeah,
The 24% increase, what's the reasoning?
it's 20.4.
20, what's his reasoning for
I
increasing?
don't think that I have seen reasoning. The
Because
last rate increase of 11.8%
Was for infrastructure.
was for infrastructure and repairs, and he hasn't done any.
Well, he did.
They're also,
Well, he
it
did,
was
he did the
minimal.
repair, but not here in Pennsylvania, he did it.
Right.
Big time.
But the thing is, like, in other words, but he has to, if he's gonna apply for a 20.4% increase with the Public Service Commission, there's gotta be a reason for what
Right,
reason.
right.
And I think the fact that we had to notify them that his last increase went out of state.
Yeah, so they're also asking for another audit by the PSC of the company. I mean, I don't, who knows, this just feels like the longest story
Well,
ever.
what I got out of the meeting was that he gets away with it. There's no consequences for him
That's
not
true.
complying.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no teeth behind it. Michelle Hinchy has a bill where private water companies will have the same, same issues and complaints and regulations that public service does. But right at this point,
Right, people will have rights, the same
Yeah,
rights as
yeah.
a public
As
water
public
supply.
systems do.
She's also creating a New York Water Authority that could take over small water companies like that. Yeah.
you see, this is also goes with your situation too, that if we can take over, if the town can take over West Hurley water system, we'd incorporate Glenford too, probably. And that would, you know,
And you really think you're gonna run water from West Hurley, Bedford?
no, I'm not saying, no, I'm not saying bring water. No, I'm not saying bring water from Glenford, from West Hurley to Glenford, but put it in another water district there, where we can look for water in Glenford, more or less, in some way. I mean, there's gotta be a solution that has to be coming through, and we have to deal with the West Hurley one and the Glenford one. It has to be done.
What I will say for everybody in here, your entire town board was at that meeting. So we all are very concerned about it. And it was funny because we all had to sit way apart because there was too many of us there. But also what I found really amazing was there was representatives from pretty much every
All
single
5 companies.
water district that are involved with, I'll say his name since we haven't said it yet, Jeffrey Fuller. And they all seem to have the same problems. It's all kind of the same. You know, some of the issues, of course, are a little different, but it's all basically the same. Harassment,
It's one
when,
way.
you know, things
It's a
like
lot of
that, all the things that he's been doing,
Quality.
Water quality.
you know,
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Hudson Valley Water Company owns 5 small water companies, all in Ulster County, except one in New Jersey, servicing about 1,000 residents. So,
Are there other water companies, such as his, within the state that are having similar problems?
yes.
Is there a way to contact them, band together, and put the political pressure on Albany?
Possibly.
I'd be willing to contact people.
You know, the other thing about this is, though, that a lot of times what the remedy is a larger company buying the smaller company. And in our way of thinking, and in the Public Utility Law Project's way of thinking, that's out of the frying pan into the fire a lot of times. So I think that the New York State Water Authority really is the answer. Because then they could just take it over.
Well, then contact those or those private, people who are on the wells, and have them raise the issue with their town folk to join us and other people within the area.
Yeah, I agree. I was pretty disturbed. I sat in on a meeting where an engineer with Ulster County Department of Health actually said that he gave American Water the contact information of Jeffrey Fuller
Yeah.
to try to buy the system. And, that to me, I mean, the Department of Health should not be in the business of connecting, larger companies that have a really terrible service track record, to buy a smaller company when that's really not in anyone's best interest. So, anyway, thank you for raising that. Yes?
Meg Carey, Lenox Avenue in Glenford. Having attended Town of Hurley board meetings for decades, or at least it feels like decades, in Old Hurley, which is 25 miles round trip for us, I want to tell you again how much I appreciate that you're having one meeting a month here in West Hurley, and how gratifying it is to see so many people able to come out to meetings. And thanks again to the West Hurley Fire Department, Fire Commission, for making it possible for us to meet here, because West Hurley and Glenford have really not spent much time over many decades coming to Old Hurley for town board meetings. And I personally think it's very important and interesting to hear the issues in the town directly from people, so that all of us were so separated, Old Hurley from West Hurley and Glenford, to know what the issues are in our town, and to have all of us able to participate more fully in our town.
the liaison to the fire departments in the town, and I have been to the meetings and will be continuing to go. And I think with both departments, we're working a lot better. We're trying to find out, we're still working on your communications between your walkie-talkies or phones or whatever sort of contraption they're gonna end up. And, you know, we do have ARPA money for that type of stuff. And we are not at all objecting to helping, because face it, you know, we're trying to get cell service down 209. I unfortunately drove by there one time when there was a very, very bad accident, and everybody's out there with their phones trying to do something, and nobody could. You know, so, you know, just know that we have your back, and we're here, and we're trying. The crazy thing that we are dealing with is just a crazy, weird, legal, political, not political, but state thing that we've got to try to figure out, you know.
Okay, anyone else?
I have a question for him. You mentioned about the lack of communications along 209. Yes, I was quite a few years ago, you know, they put a phone tower set up in the steeple on the church, right in the middle of town, so that we would have towers service. Has that broke down? Is it still working?
It got lost in the shuffle of mergers.
Of what?
Mergers, so the company that owned that tower, Sprint, merged and got bought up, and we think that's not functional.
As
We are looking into making it functional.
On your phone though, don't you have a satellite button? I know there's a special emergency button on your cell phone, that if you can't get cell phone, communications, you can get satellite communication.
I might have to upgrade my phone.
Yeah. I've never used it, but that's what they told me.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Doyle.
Board, I hate to be confrontational, but again this month, I've got an issue that I want to raise. My name is Don Doyle, and I live at 82 Tanglewood Road. Dear Town of Hurley board members, recently it was brought to the attention of members of our Town Highway Department staff that a board member that will remain unnamed here made negative comments regarding our town highway workers and the work they perform. Understand that I personally did not experience these comments, so the information I'm referring to is indeed hearsay. That being said, I have known the person these comments were made to for many, many years, and I have no doubt that such comments were made. I have more faith in this resident than the board member named as making these comments. I simply wish to remind the entire town board and the unnamed board member that any disagreements you may have with the town highway department staff should be handled in a professional manner between the town board and the town highway superintendent. I am also disgusted in knowing our town highway superintendent is aware of these hearsay comments and is not here this evening to defend his staff. I believe some of the reason this town board wishes to pass a law for the town to pay for legal services for our board members is that they recognize they may have concern already and will likely have more concern in the future as to litigation that may occur during your administration. I strongly suggest this board discuss among yourselves this matter and that you all be placed on notice that the public is listening, and should additional negative comments be made, that you will be hearing more from me personally. I know nothing about the work by our highway department other than for 28 years I've lived in West Hurley, and I've never experienced an issue with any of these employees or their work. My son has only worked for the town highway department a few years, but I know he has an excellent work ethic and is a hard worker, as are some of the other employees I know personally. In closing, I refer to the workshop meeting agenda, which indicates comments must be respectful. I strongly suggest the board member in question take his or her own advice. And remember, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Thank you.
Thank you. It should be noted that we hold the members of the highway department in the highest regard for all the work that they do for the town. thank you.
And that's everybody.
With that, I'd like a motion to close the public comment period. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carried. Reports and updates. Joan, the report that you gave about the water, is there anything else you wanna add
What's
with
going
the
on with their
CAC or anything?
Basically, we're still, the last meeting, only 3 people showed. Great.
And me.
So we really didn't do much. We want to start working on our NRI, but that's kind of put on the wayside. And basically, we're smart, climate smart, dealing with that, okay? But there hasn't been much going on this summer. I don't know if I'll have a meeting, and that was in August if no one's going to be there. The other question I had was, I can still do Zoom, or do I have to come to town hall?
Because you're a committee, and you are not subject to the same rules that boards are. So you can hold committee meetings virtually.
Right, and then the website though is, is that the memo you're talking about? The email I sent you about the website, the names are incorrect, and there's no link on the website itself to come into the meetings, that's why I asked.
Yeah, okay, so, when the information got migrated over from the old website to the new website, the company did that, so my apologies for that.
Do you
So,
want to contact me?
we can do it, or we can give you, if you want to talk with Samara,
Okay,
she can get you in. I believe you were set up with credentials to be able to update that page,
oh, I was.
but probably, yeah, you've never done it, so.
No, because I went into it for the meeting to get my link, and I'm like, okay, then I had to go back in my emails, find my link,
Right.
send it over to,
Yeah.
to Greg.
So Samara will hook you up.
Okay. Okay, now, as far as minutes go, do I still send them to Judy, or do you want me to post them? Because you'd probably want to review them.
If it's possible for you to post them, that would probably be preferable.
Okay.
You know, there's some stuff going on in the clerk's office, it's taking time to get stuff posted, so.
Okay.
Either the clerk's office, either connect with Samara to help with that, or she can do it.
Okay, all right, I'll give her a call then
Okay.
this week. Okay, thanks. So that's basically all of the business that I had to do.
Okay, I know Kristen's away, so.
Yeah.
Any other committees that wish to report? Yes.
Toby Carey, Communications Committee, just briefly, I've been in touch with Rich Parity from the town of Marbletown, and interested in what they have for online meetings and telecommunications, especially given the new directive from the state. And he told me that he called the Committee on Open Government, who said, you don't need to transcribe every meeting, that if someone foils it, then you should transcribe that specific meeting that they're foiling about. He says that's probably $200. So they're not transcribing all their meetings because of the cost, just like has been expressed by this board as well. So that's some information that may be of interest. I don't know how accurate that is.
I want to speak with the Association of Towns directly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he invited me to come down to see their telecommunications setup.
They
So
have an amazing setup. They also, Marbletown has a lot more staff. Yeah, that's an amazing facility.
they share their facility with
Rosendale,
so it costs their costs right to have. So
right, right,
I'll let you know what we find out.
okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So the topics for discussion, we've obviously had 2 public hearings on chickens and bees. I thought I would open it up to the town board to talk about it. I mean, personally, I'm feeling like it makes sense to make some changes.
My concern, R1 and R2, are we getting a lot of comments from people living in R1 and R2, what their preference is?
No, so understand that chickens and bees right now are permitted in every other area except R1 and
Right.
R2. So the zoning board of appeals was hearing a good number of variances about chickens particularly. So, Josh and the zoning board of appeals asked the town board
Mhm.
to undertake legislation so that the number of variances that they would need to consider for chickens would be
Less.
much less. You know, we really probably shouldn't be doing variances for chickens. So,
But I've been hearing so far that everybody's is in favor of chickens.
yes,
Just
absolutely.
not roosters.
Right, absolutely. So I think what I'm suggesting is that in the text of the draft law, that the town board review it and ask for some changes if we want to make changes, or we proceed with it as it is. I mean, I know that we've gotten public comments on no more than 6 hens on a lot of 3/4 of an acre or more. So if you have less than 0.75 acre, you wouldn't,
Have any.
you'd have to go get a variance.
Mhm.
Is that a lot size that we want to keep? Do we want to, so that's the kind of conversation I want to have with you
Yeah,
all,
exactly.
is
Yeah.
the specifics of the law.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you interested in having that conversation tonight, or do you want to do that another time?
I think we've hashed this around quite a while. And nice season's getting, people want chickens or bees. Bees is probably out of it already. I have a few comments about it, that there was the one where I believe it's the bees need to be 50 feet off a property. But we're allowing it in things bigger than 2 acres to be able to just, to have them. I think bees should be allowed everywhere, because even acre 1, someone could put up a hive that's 50 feet away. That would be legal. I have no problem, personally, with the idea of bees. Honeybees are docile. We need them very badly. And as far as the chickens go, to me personally, like a lot of people here, I was born and raised here. I'm used to it, and I'm used to roosters. I personally have no problem with roosters anywhere. But I understand certain people do. Certain people have problems with sleeping. Maybe I would suggest that the only thing I would want to change would be basically that roosters aren't allowed in R1. 2 acres of land is a pretty big piece of land. I have that much. And it's usually definitely, it all depends on how they're cut. But there could be definitely made to be far enough away from basically another house that's next to it, that I personally, and that's just, the way I feel. But I represent everybody else in the town.
As far as I'm concerned, we've opened this up for public discussion and comment, and I think at this stage, I feel strongly that we should give residents an opportunity to really weigh in. We should do what we're doing, continue to invite, but I don't think we need to delay much longer on passing this.
So we've had 2 public hearings. We're
Yes.
scheduled to have a third in 2 weeks.
Right.
I feel as though, we've had
That would be
some.
enough time.
Yeah, but understand though, we have had some
Concerns about that.
some input
Yeah.
about the number of hens
Yeah.
and the amount of land.
Yep.
And I also have had some comments about bees, honeybees. And I'm feeling like I think we should refer this back to the zoning task force.
Yeah.
To re-examine the lot size
Yep.
and the number of hens,
Yeah.
and the setbacks, as well as The requirements for beehives, I think, we should make sure that that's in keeping with best practices for beekeeping, that I would not want to see a conflict between our law and what's
Right.
best practices for beekeeping.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll refer that back. If anyone has any specific comments, you can submit them in writing to supervisor@townofhurley.org, and we'll include the remarks with the referral back to the zoning task force.
I don't even think we've had anyone any bad reports on having chickens by
Oh, we had
anyone.
one.
The one with the one.
About the rooster.
The-
but
that
not-
rooster.
That's the
not
only one.
chickens, Not
Not the
chickens.
Not
Right,
chickens.
not
That
hens.
one with the rooster.
But that was just one person complaining about it, but the other people who made comments were in favor of having roosters.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we'll refer that back to the zoning task force. All right. Next item is town board received the report from the insurance company that we received just in the last few days. I know the report's dated July 5th. It was emailed to me after that. It is posted on the town's website. I did a blast with the report attached for anyone wishing to take a look at that. There are a number of items that are high severity. And are actionable. We need to actually respond to the insurance company in the next 60 days about the steps we're taking to remediate the situation. So the first is recommending very quickly that we engage the services of a structural engineer on the highway garage building to make sure it's structurally sound.
We could read these if you want.
Okay, I can read them off. The municipality should consider utilizing the services of a professional consultant, structural engineer, to examine the structural integrity and condition of the building due to deterioration and dilapidation noted of the structural components for the purpose of preventing collapse or failure of the building feature that would further damage the building, assets inside, or cause injury to members of the public, personnel, etc. There's an existing proposal from CPL Architectural Engineering. Planning to rehab the existing garage should be carefully reviewed to determine if this is the best course of action relative to cost effectiveness, and if indeed would make the old highway garage safer, and or determine whether relocation to a more suitable facility that has been identified would be a more appropriate solution. Next item
You want me
is,
to read?
no, I can keep going.
Okay.
Fire safety. It is suggested that reserve oxygen cylinders be separated from fuel gas cylinders by at least 20 feet or by a non-combustible barrier of at least 5 feet high, having a fire resistance rating of at least 1/2 hour to reduce the exposure to fire and explosion. Gas cylinders should be secured and chained in the upright position.
Let me ask you a question, with that fire safety,
Yep,
did they spot that this was a problem?
yes,
This is at the garage?
yes.
Yes.
There are loose canisters in the garage.
That's,
Not only that, it's acetylene.
It's a bomb.
Acetylene's a bomb.
It's not good.
yeah.
So the next one is Parks Playground. It should be noted that the playground did undergo an upgrade since the insurance inspection, so I'll read it, but it's been taken care of. It is important that the town follow through on plans to rehab the park and playground facility on Dug Hill Road with new playground equipment, meeting all Consumer Product Safety Commission requirements with respect to safe elements, surfacing materials and depth, rules of use and safety drainage, and the ADA and inclusive measures for the handicapped. That was taken care of. We knew that it was an insurance liability issue, which is why we moved as quickly as we did. Security. During the review of the municipality's workplace violence prevention program, it was discussed that annual training is not being provided to all town employees and elected officials. Annualized training should be scheduled since it is a vital component in defending the town should there be a workplace violence incident involving the public. All employees and elected officials should be trained annually, and the training should be documented. This also includes a workplace assessment of the town's exposure to violence with particular respect to the justice court area. So in the past, the town has hired a law firm, and it turns out that our insurance company will provide this training for free. We'll be taking advantage of that in the next couple of months. Another security item, to improve its claim defense position in the event of a disturbance in the court resulting in personal injury, it is suggested that the town's uniformed court security officer obtain his peace officer certification if they have not already done so. Currently, the person who is acting in this capacity is neither uniformed or trained as such and should either be replaced with a trained and certified peace officer or law enforcement officer or become DCJS trained as indicated with appropriate level of force options, firearm, taser, etc. The situation is that our wages have not been sufficient to attract personnel, so the town board will be considering this situation, and we'll need to upgrade the wage that we're willing to pay and probably provide a minimum number of hours so that if someone comes for 10 minutes, they're guaranteed. Other towns, you guarantee 3 or 4 hours if they just show up for a little, half hour or something, to make it worth their while. So all the ones that I've just read are highly actionable. The next is moderate. Policies and procedures. It is suggested that the town enact a local law to supersede New York Town Law 65-A to provide maximum protection against lawsuits from defects to streets, culverts, etc., not previously notified in writing. In addition, the town clerk should keep a log of the written prior notifications the town receives regarding defects to streets, sidewalks, etc. Please note that it is important for the log to be maintained, even if it is blank, with no recorded notices. This will serve as proof that a written notice was never received of the alleged defect. And then the last one, is also moderate. While a municipality does have written anti-harassment and non-discrimination policies, training may not have been provided to all staff. Training for staff should be scheduled since it is a vital component in defending the district against these exposures. All staff should be trained and the training should be documented, as well as that of elected officials. Training should be done annually. Doing this can limit the municipality's potential for employment practices, liability claims. So again, there's a mechanism through the insurance company that this training is provided at no charge, and it also will log whether or not someone has completed the training.
We've done these trainings before, but it was stopped by COVID.
Yes, and I'm not entirely sure that all employees in the town
The notice went out for everybody to do.
I know it did, but I haven't reviewed the records to tell you whether or not it really covered everybody. I know I've provided certification every year, but I haven't checked back to see if everyone has. So that's the report. We'll work to provide a report back to the insurance company in the next 60 days, as they're instructing us to do. Anyone have anything to add to this, or?
No, it's a perfect segue to go into the next agenda
It
item,
is.
actually.
Yeah, so there has been, well, do you want to speak to the entire thing? I can hop in if I need to.
One of the bigger challenges that the town has faced is making sure that policies and procedures around human resource issues are properly dealt with. The town has not updated its handbook. The last time it was updated was in 2006. And the thinking at this point is that there are a number of issues, a number of non-compliance issues that we're going to have to address to get up to speed, get up to code in relation to just what has happened over the last almost 15, 15 years, 16 years. There are, what we're considering now is hiring an HR consulting firm that will help us with streamlining a number of the compliance issues as well as updating the handbook the employee handbook. The reasons why this, and I can list out a few of them that are really problematic. One is around how payroll issues are dealt with, how personnel files are dealt with. The town has 37 employees, and we need to find a way to make sure everybody is properly accounted for, and all the rules and regulations and the kinds of trainings that need to be done are done in a timely fashion. Sexual harassment training is another aspect that needs to be addressed, which seems to be inconsistent or at least spotty at best. And how we deal with kind of severances and how people are addressed when they are leaving or coming into the town government or town employment. So there are a number of issues that we need to start looking at very, very closely in terms of just administrative structures. And so what we'll be proposing, and so far we've gotten, it looks like we've gotten four companies to kind of communicate with us about possibly providing consulting services primarily to solve this issue of the handbook. I don't have to, well, should I just list them?
We'll post
We'll
everything on
post
the
them,
website.
yeah,
This
so-
just, we just finished this today. so-
Yeah, I mean, one of the key things though, I think we have to consider, we really have to get the handbook sorted out. I mean, that has to be updated as quickly as we can get it. And I think we have a solution. There are 4 companies that are possible, and we'll make a decision on which one is most appropriate.
So I just want to kind of fill in some additional
Sure.
information. So what we have found is that by not having a company that is accessible to advise us, there have been a number of occasions where, for instance, an employee left the employment of the town and wasn't offered COBRA. The penalty for that can be gigantic. There are also, we tend to lean pretty heavily on attorneys to deal with some of the thornier HR issues, when it would be much more cost-effective to have an HR company to advise us, rather than constantly having to kick it up to an attorney. I think a lot of the attorney fee cost would be defrayed if we were to go with something like this. It's a lot less costly than lawyers for, $250, $300 an hour. So that's what our thinking is. It's ultimately, it looks like an outlay and another kind of expense, except that when you step back and you
Yeah.
realize what we're actually paying, what it's actually costing, both in attorney's fees as well as in staff time, in trying to ascertain what the right answers are, I think it's a net saver by us doing this. So,
Yeah, I think also, the other, to that point,
It'll save us money.
Yeah, will save us, bottom line is that.
probably a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna have to say, I think the legal fees that we're now paying out are really, really problematic, and they're probably going to affect significantly our budget for legal services because of these non-compliance issues. And so we have to spend this money to get compliant with all the HR things that we need, and we need somebody to help us do
Ensure that paperwork is consistent,
Yeah.
that everything is, yeah.
Right.
Anyone have anything?
Yeah, well, we definitely need something, an HR company, because I know that, between Samara and the highway secretary, they can't do it. They can't do that.
Right, exactly.
It has to be
Well,
done.
And they're not well-versed in the laws,
No,
right?
I mean,
So,
so I think this is good. Maybe these 4 companies here, have we actually, investigated these companies, see
we,
exactly? The first one, Marshall and Stern, that's a huge company.
yeah,
All right, and I looked at Visions HR, and they look decent.
yeah.
Decent, but again, is Visions HR a reliable company? It's the only thing.
Yeah, we actually got their name from our accountants, not charged us anything, so, anyway, any other questions among the board?
All right, I really encourage the board to step forward and get this administrative structures and the HR issues resolved, because if we don't, it's gonna come back and bite us. We
Yeah, I
have
think
to solve this problem.
Also, the handbook is kind of, there are conflicting things in the
Yeah,
handbook
right.
itself, so it's
Yeah.
definitely an issue.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's a must.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to.
I mean, we've had supervisor secretaries
Acting as
in charge of HR. I mean, none of them are qualified to do that. And you need someone who's, that's separate from everything to be a proper HR person.
Yeah, and there have been cases in the past where it wasn't handled well, and it's coming back, and we're having to deal with things that were not handled correctly in the past, so, all right, so we'll move forward with that. So, everybody's probably aware of the brush situation at the transfer station. I did send out an email yesterday asking the highway superintendent to move the brush. Apparently, there's been some movement up there. I guess we're accepting now leaves and grass clippings. Is there anything anybody wishes to say about this?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
The brush was asked to be moved close to at least a month ago, and it just got moved a bit today. I just want everybody to understand that there's no law stating that we need to chip any of this. It can literally, I talked to DEC, it's all organic. It could literally just sit there and decompose on its own if we chose. So the idea that we're at capacity is not true. We have over 54 acres up there. We could take more if we want. We will be looking into purchasing a drive-on scale, which I've been trying to do since I got in. It's very hard to do this fairly with everybody unless we do it, basically a lot of it by what it is by pounds. The transfer station will be working on creating their own town mulch and chips for town projects. And we've had some people, and if anybody knows any of these people, going up and harassing them because they haven't been able to take it, that's unacceptable. We haven't been able to take it because we haven't had the main pile moved back enough so we could continue doing it.
We did discuss chipping it. Town offered to split the cost of the chipping with the highway superintendent, and he declined. The last time the town chipped the brush was 2 years ago. It came out of the transfer station budget, and the highway department kept the wood chips. I'd like to avoid that situation in the future, so I'm happy to split it. We can split the wood chips, or we need to find some other solution. So,
I've also been doing a lot of research on what to do with these chips and who will chip them and who can take them and where they can be used. So just stay tuned. Hopefully by the next town board, I'll have a little more information. Honestly, from the piles that are up there now with the different mulch that gets, over the course of time, we got different piles. It starts this, but by the time it's done, it gets down pretty much to topsoil. Our piles are gigantic, pretty much up there of what we need.
because of the ice storm.
All of the chips we could literally, hopefully sell to, I've heard that Rudenhoff across the river literally runs their property on these chips to run their boilers. Also, Ulster County Resource Recovery makes their own mulch up there, and they do this 12 months out of the year. So by talking to them, they're always interested in getting more, because face it, during 4 or 5 months out of the year, their ability to start mixing in with their food compost and everything else that they do up there to make it, they have a shortage. So I'm really working on this to do this the best way possible to save taxpayers money and to be able to do something with this that can be of use. I don't think there's a purpose that we really need to be really creating a lot more of this at this point in time.
Okay. The town board will see that we have another resolution from the court for the audit, and we did just receive another shared services agreement with the town of Rosendale. So that'll be on the agenda at the board meeting. So that really is all I have. Any board members wish to say anything? Any topics?
Yeah, I have, this is one thing. Is there a way, I think we discussed this like last year or so about, with the transfer station, if we can actually use debit cards and credit cards as opposed to cash?
We need to get a whole system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's on the list.
I spoke to Marbletown.
That's on the
and
list.
That's all they do.
For the first of the year, hopefully we can get that into
Yeah.
place.
That's in the process.
That's the
too.
goal.
Good.
That's the
good.
goal.
More administrative issues.
Yeah.
Just to streamline things.
Yeah.
Can I bring up this procurement?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot that for some reason that got left off the agenda.
Yeah, so there's how the town goes about procuring services and materials and equipment. We need to revisit how that's done. This town board, by and large, is very focused on being as environmentally friendly as possible, which means that our procurement policies need to reflect a lot of that environmental, protections that we're interested in. So, on a whole, the board will be looking at or revisiting this procurement strategies and how we go about it, and that will be information that is forthcoming. I just brought it up as kind of preemptive, that so that people know that we're taking this very seriously and looking at how the town does procure goods and services.
So Climate Smart Communities Task Force asked us to take this on, and I'm wondering if Gregory and Mike, would you guys work with Dave
Sure.
to review that policy and?
Well, I looked at it, the policy, and I like it.
Okay,
I
so,
really
but
like
there were some questions around
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
The question that main question is, I mean, there were a lot of, in the policies, there were a lot of requirements to make sure that buying this or buying that was consistent with, carbon reduction.
Yep.
My only question is, for each one of those things, how do we do it? What's the mechanism? Are there added
Right,
costs,
so there's some
et cetera?
details to work
So,
out.
I mean, it's fine, I mean, it's a great idea, but before we jump in,
Right.
I'd like to have each of those flow
Absolutely.
through.
So that's why I'm asking
Yeah,
the two of you to
absolutely,
work
yeah,
on it.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
happy to sit
yeah.
down.
I mean, it's
and
not,
work through this with you.
the requirements that we're considering are not trivial.
Right.
None of these things are trivial.
No,
How we go about procuring things
right.
can become very expensive if we're not careful. And I think that's what David's speaking to, trying to make sure that we do it right,
And
cost
possibly time
effectively.
consuming and also possibly indeterminate. So
Yeah.
as long as we know how we're gonna do
Yeah.
number 4, that was my biggest
Right.
concern.
Yeah.
And also that you guys have a sense if it's gonna cost any.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so great. The three of you will work on that. The only thing I wanted to say, we didn't really talk a lot about the post-landfill closure monitoring report. The first 18 pages of that, as I said, are posted on the town website. Town board needs to know that Town of Hurley did not submit the annual report as required to New York State DEC from 2013 until just this year. So there was a gap from 2013 to 2021 where there was no reporting to New York State DEC, and we were not in compliance. So, so the results of this are pretty good, all things considered. There are some areas where we do exceed the standard. However, in every instance, the statement by the engineers is none of these exceedances appear to warrant concern. So there aren't any contaminants that are a threat to human health that are reflected in this.
This
So
report's on, online?
it's, the first 18 pages are online. The rest of the report is environmental testing, and
Data.
it's data, basically. It's over 100 pages. I scanned the first 18. I can go through the rest and.
Can I get a copy of
and
the whole
try
thing?
to, yes.
All right, I'll come pick it up then.
Check with, get in
I'll give it to
touch with
Samara.
Samara.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, anything else? A last comment?
I just want to thank the board for dealing with all these old issues. A lot of this stuff, as you said, been hanging around for a decade or more. And I know there's a lot on your plate, and I want to thank you all for taking the time and doing this in a very diligent kind of way. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. It feels like all we get is criticism, so I appreciate some, this is not a
Something
full-time job.
positive.
This is not a full-time job for any of us, and none of us are getting rich off of this. So it helps to at least have some gratitude expressed once in a while. All right, well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I do.
Okay. Is there a second?
Nice.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
So Dave, I just. On the, for you.
Yeah, you look great.
I know.
Stuff, but it's like, oh, because she says, is it okay, well, before you do this.
It's theory,
Right.
It's not operational.
How you gonna do that, and then just make sure you put it all the way out. So, yeah.
All right, so I'll give you a call, and maybe like Tuesday, maybe like early next week. Sure. I'll get Gregory, and we'll do like a three-way call.
Whatever, yeah, whatever works. Actually, I don't have a daughter in that fight.